Now, Lithuania this month became the envy of the EU when it announced it had completely stopped importing gas from Russia. It was able to pull the plug on Russian energy thanks to its investment in a terminal to import liquefied natural gas, or LNG, with the fitting name Independence.
Every month, tank ships filled with liquefied natural gas head to Lithuania via the Baltic Sea. One full LNG carrier is all it takes to supply the country's 2.8 million people with gas for half a month. We've been invited to take a peek at the high-tech floating LNG terminal that makes it possible in the port city of Klaipėda.
Before the terminal, Lithuania and the Baltic states have been paying the highest price in whole Europe, approximately up to 40% more, just because we did not have an alternative. After the independence started operations in the region, the natural gas prices became just the same as in the Western Europe.
The terminal was called Independence because it makes Lithuania completely independent of Russian gas, which until recently was delivered via pipelines. Filming in the terminal and the port is prohibited due to fears of Russian sabotage. The LNG comes from Norway, the US, and the Gulf states. The gas, which is cooled down to minus 160 degrees Celsius for shipping, is converted back to gas and fed into Lithuania's grid through underground pipelines. Could such a floating terminal also make Germany independent of Russian gas?
I don't see any reason why it would not be feasible. For example, Lithuanian natural gas consumption, annual consumption, is approximately 2 billion cubic meters. And this specific vessel has a capacity of 3.75. So that means that it can supply Lithuania and neighboring countries with natural gas.
It took 2 years to build the terminal, which will be expanded. It won't only make Lithuania independent of Russian gas, but will also help the Baltic states supply neighboring countries with LNG. That will be done via this gas distribution plant close to the capital, Vilnius. From here, LNG flows to Lithuania's neighbors. The operator is preparing for increased demand.
This place actually is connected to the new gas pipeline that is being under very finishing touches, and we will start it on the 1st of May towards Poland, gas interconnection between Poland and Lithuania.
It's now easy for Lithuania, Poland, Estonia, Latvia, and Finland to swap their gas reserves, so they have much better chances of making it through a Russian gas embargo.
While other countries hope to follow Lithuania, the EU as a whole remains heavily dependent on Russian gas. Earlier, I spoke to Michael Stoppard, Chief Strategist for Global Gas at IHS Markit, about whether LNG is a realistic replacement for the rest of the bloc.
Well, it does take time to not only build and put in place regas terminals, but indeed the entire infrastructure, the entire supply chain for LNG. I think with regard to those regas terminals, it will be a struggle to get them up and running by the beginning of winter, but probably should be up and running before the end of winter.
So give us a sense of the situation right now for energy security in Europe. Do we have enough natural gas to get us through the coming months, the coming year?
Well, the first thing to say is that the Russian gas, which of course is such an important percentage share of the European mix, is continuing to flow. It's flowing through the Nord Stream pipeline and flowing across Ukrainian territory into Europe. So the gas is coming from Europe and from other sources, from Algeria, from Norway, and from LNG. The second point that's very important to remember is the winter is now behind us. We're well into spring, and gas demand across Europe is declining very sharply. So the key issue now becomes preparing the storage build that's required over the next 6 months to prepare for winter, and indeed getting those regas terminals in place to prepare ourselves for winter. So we have a 6-month preparation period that's very important to make maximum use of.
I mean, given how expensive LNG is, how realistic is it that that will play a major role in the EU energy supply going forward?
I think LNG will play a critical role. I mean, the entire energy complex is extremely stretched, so prices are very high. But the cost structure of LNG is well below the current very high levels. So if we get more investment, we can see competitive prices emerging. But that will take some years as we adjust from this very high level of use of Russian pipeline and we move to greater use of LNG. We do need to recall that the LNG market is truly global, and there are major economies, most notably Japan and South Korea, that are dependent 100% for their natural gas from LNG. So Europe is competing for that supply from other sources, and it will take 4 or 5 years to get a supply response before new projects are up to meet the required demand. But LNG will be one of the critical elements for diversifying the European gas supply slate.